Okay, so have you ever felt like you're just endlessly chasing goals? Hitting milestones, but never quite feeling truly satisfied?
hmm
Or maybe you're working incredibly hard, pouring all your energy into something, but you're still not getting what you really, truly want deep down.
Yeah, that feeling of spinning your wheels.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine someone, maybe even you listening right now, who on paper has kind of made it right, the dream job, the nice house, but there's still this nagging sense of emptiness,
Right.
or maybe frustration.
Absolutely. It's surprisingly common.
Well, if any of that resonates, then today's deep dive is definitely for you. We're digging into a really fascinating book by John Gray.
Ah, the men are from Mars, women are from Venus author.
That's the one. But this book is called How to Get What You Want and Want What You Have.
Quite a title.
It is, isn't it? It
Yeah.
sounds almost paradoxical, but it holds a really profound meaning that we're going to unpack today.
It really does. And our mission here, I think, is to explore Gray's core message. It's a very heart-centered guide, but
Uh-huh.
also super practical.
Right.
It blends emotional healing, spiritual awareness, and, concrete real-life action.
So not just theory.
Not at all. This isn't your typical self-help fluff. It's really about deep inner transformation, helping us live fuller, happier lives by revealing this fundamental truth
Which is,
that before you can truly get what you want, you first have to learn to love and, crucially, accept where you are right now.
okay, so let's dive right into that core idea then. How to get what you want and want what you have.
Mm.
Like I said, at first glance, it just sounds completely contradictory.
It does.
You think, wait, shouldn't I be striving for more, pushing harder?
And that's the common reaction, right?
Yeah.
But that's where Gray's unique approach really shines. He's talking about achieving this perfect balance. It's dynamic between ambition and acceptance.
An inside-out method.
Exactly. It's deeply rooted in psychological healing, taking emotional responsibility, and getting spiritually aligned.
So different from just setting goals and hustling.
Very different. A lot of goal-setting books push that endless hustle, external achievement above all. Gray's method starts way deeper. It's about healing what he calls the inner child.
We're getting to that.
Yeah, and releasing that deep-seated guilt, cultivating genuine self-love. It's a completely different starting line for building the life you actually desire.
And he lays out these, 10 strategies for fulfillment? That sounds like quite a list.
It does, but there's a thread connecting them all.
Okay, so at the heart of it, what's the central teaching? Where does he really tell us to begin? Which strategy would you say is the foundation for everything else?
The absolute core, the one that underpins everything, is that teaching we just mentioned, before you can truly get what you want. More love, success, money, peace, purpose, whatever it is, you must first learn to love and accept your current reality.
Love and accept it,
Yeah.
even if it's not what you want.
Yes. And this isn't about resignation, like just giving up. It's about deep recognition. Seeing things as they are without the resistance, that acceptance, that recognition, that's the absolute key. It unlocks everything else.
Can you give us maybe a concrete example? Like how does resisting your current situation, say financially, backfire? And how could embracing it actually open doors?
Yeah.
Just to make it really tangible.
Sure, okay. Let's take finances. Imagine someone constantly struggling, always chasing the next big paycheck, right? But feeling deeply resentful about their current income, constantly thinking it's not enough.
Yeah, I can picture that.
Gray would argue that resistance, that feeling of not enough, it actually creates more friction, more struggle.
Okay.
By contrast, if that same person could somehow fully accept their current financial situation, maybe practice gratitude for what they do have, address the underlying fears, the scarcity mindset,
Right.
they might suddenly find themselves feeling more creative or maybe more open to spotting unexpected opportunities, or even just better at managing the money they already have.
Ah, interesting.
Which then leads to more, not less. It's like shifting from resistance to acceptance changes your internal magnetic field, you could say.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, one part of this book really made me pause, where Gray suggests that a lot of our adult dissatisfaction, it isn't just random. It's not just about not getting enough stuff.
He points deeper.
Yeah, where does he say it comes from?
That's one of his really profound insights, I think. Gray argues that our struggles so often stem from these unresolved childhood wounds.
Wounds, like what?
Things like unmet emotional needs when we were kids, maybe a lack of nurturing experiences, or even actual past trauma that we're still carrying, often unconsciously.
Right.
And he emphasizes until these deep patterns are recognized and truly healed, We might just keep chasing things externally.
The next promotion, the bigger house.
Exactly. But no matter how much we get, it never truly brings that satisfaction we crave. It's like trying to fill a bucket that has a hole in the bottom. The water just keeps leaking out.
That's a powerful image. So, okay, he starts with something people might have heard of, healing the inner child. What does Gray actually mean by that? Not just therapeutically, but like in practical daily terms.
Yeah, it's a term that gets thrown around. Gray sees the inner child as essentially the emotional part of us, the part that holds on to past hurts, unmet needs from childhood.
Okay.
Practically, healing it means first acknowledging those past experiences, allowing yourself to maybe feel the emotions you weren't allowed to express back then, sadness, anger, fear,
Mm-hmm.
and then consciously giving that younger part of yourself the love, the validation, maybe the reassurance it didn't get originally.
And can you give an example? Like, what's a common adult behavior that Gray might trace back to an unhealed inner child?
Mhm.
Something maybe surprising.
Oh, absolutely. A really common one he discusses is people pleasing, that constant need for external validation, you know?
Yeah, definitely know people like that, or am like that sometimes.
Right. So if a child felt their needs were only met if they were good or perfect or quiet, they might carry that pattern into adulthood. Always seeking approval, struggling to set boundaries, always trying to anticipate what others want, and therefore never truly getting what they want.
Because they're too busy trying to be what everyone else wants.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so this leads to another kind of counterintuitive idea in the book.
Early on.
The whole be happy first principle. The idea isn't get what you want, then you'll be happy. It's more like be happy, and then you'll attract what you want.
Yes. That really challenges the usual way we think about achieving goals, doesn't it?
It totally does. So for someone listening who's feeling a genuine lack right now or struggling, how does Gray explain that cultivating inner well-being before the external success is even possible, let alone effective?
That really is the crux of his philosophy. Gray explains it like this. Our emotional state acts a magnet.
Okay.
So if you're constantly feeling lack, frustration, maybe desperation, you're sort of inadvertently attracting more experiences that match that feeling.
Like attracts like.
In a way, yes. So cultivating that inner sense of peace and happiness first, even when things are challenging, it fundamentally shifts your internal frequency, your vibration.
So you build an internal state of abundance first.
Precisely. And it's not about ignoring problems. It's about approaching them from a place of inner strength, inner resourcefulness, which actually makes solutions and opportunities much more visible, much more accessible.
And part of that is this idea that abundance isn't something you have to go out and get.
Exactly. That's one of his most powerful messages. It's already there.
It's something to realize.
Yes.
Yeah.
You already have it. The love, the peace, the security that we often chase externally. He argues it already exists inside us.
So how do we access it?
The moment you stop resisting your current reality, release that internal friction, that fight, that's when new opportunities start to unfold, sometimes seemingly out of nowhere.
Because your internal state is now aligned to receive them.
That's the idea. It's less about, say, manifesting $1 million by tomorrow morning.
Right, not magic.
No. It's more about finding peace with the $20 you have in your wallet today. And ironically, that sense of peace, that acceptance, creates the inner space for more to flow in.
What I found really striking, too, is how he pulls from so many different places. He's not just doing psychology. He's not purely a spiritual guide.
No, he integrates them.
How does he manage that? To blend these worlds, spirituality, psychology, practical advice, so effectively.
That's really a hallmark of his work, I think. He expertly blends wisdom from ancient traditions with insights from modern psychology.
So he talks about things like karma.
He does, yes. He talks about karma, the soul's journey, the idea that the universe supports you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's never just, airy-fairy stuff.
Yeah.
He grounds these concepts. Like karma, he doesn't present it as some mystical punishment system. It's more like the natural law of cause and effect in our emotional and spiritual lives.
What you put out, you get back.
Essentially, yeah. But maybe more accurately, your outer world reflects your inner state. And he always balances these bigger spiritual ideas with really grounded, practical advice.
On everyday stuff.
Absolutely. On developing good habits, the huge importance of forgiveness, how to navigate relationships better, even managing your money. It's a very complete approach, connecting the inner world with the outer life.
And he gives practical steps, right? Tools to actually do this inner transformation. Like, how do you even begin to clear out all this old emotional baggage he says we're carrying?
Yes, he provides specific, actionable tools. One really foundational set of practices he details are the 5 steps of emotional cleansing.
Okay, 5 steps. What are they, broadly?
They're designed to help you first identify your emotions, then express them in a healthy way, not necessarily at someone, but expressing them, then understand their underlying roots, move towards forgiveness, and finally return to a state of love.
Okay, so identifying, expressing, but then bridging that gap to understanding the roots, and especially forgiveness and love. That sounds like the tricky part. Is there a specific technique for that transition?
There is actually a very specific and quite powerful technique he calls feeling letters.
Feeling letters. How's that work?
It involves writing a letter, but in a very specific sequence of emotions. You start by writing out your anger about a situation or person.
Just let it rip.
Pretty much, yeah. Get the anger out onto the page. Then you transition to writing about the sadness underneath the anger.
Okay.
Then you write about the fear related to it. What are you afraid of? Then regret any regrets you have about your part in it or the situation itself. And finally, you write about love.
Love. Even if you're writing about someone you're angry with.
It could be love for yourself, for getting through it. It could be understanding, even compassion
Yeah.
for the other person's struggles, not condoning their behavior, but seeing their humanity. Or it could just be expressing a desire to return to a loving state within yourself.
Wow.
The power is in the sequence. It systematically processes those suppressed emotions, moving you from the most resistant feelings, like anger, gradually towards acceptance and love. It's designed to clear out that deep emotional baggage.
Creating space for something new.
Exactly. Creating inner peace, new perspectives.
And beyond just the emotional release, he also talks about mindset practices, right?
Absolutely. He definitely highlights the power of affirmations and visualizations.
But not as magic tricks.
No, not like say this 3 times and get rich. More as practical tools to help reprogram your mindset, to align your internal state, your focus, with what you truly want to attract or create.
Makes sense.
And he really stresses the importance of a daily spiritual practice, which, again, can be super simple.
Like what?
It could be just taking a moment for gratitude. It could be prayer, if that resonates with you, whatever your beliefs are, or just consciously connecting with what he calls your higher self.
Your higher self. Meaning,
Basically tapping into your inner wisdom, that deeper, calmer, more expansive part of you that's connected to peace and intuition. It's all about consistent internal nurturing.
okay, but let me push back slightly. For someone who's facing really intense external pressures right now, like a super tight budget, a toxic job they can't leave, difficult relationship issues.
Real life stuff.
Yeah. How does this emphasis on inner transformation realistically help with those immediate, tangible challenges? It could feel a bit abstract, when you're really in the thick of it.
That's an excellent point. And it's where Gray's practicality, I think, really comes through.
Yeah.
He doesn't suggest you just ignore the external pressures and meditate all day. Good. Instead, he teaches that by addressing your internal state first, by healing those emotional wounds, cultivating self-love, embracing acceptance, you actually become more resilient.
Okay.
You become more creative, better equipped mentally and emotionally to handle those external challenges.
So give me an example. That person in the draining job, they can't quit.
Right. So Gray's approach wouldn't be just quit. It would be, okay, start to want what you have, even in this difficult situation. How? By finding maybe tiny things to be grateful for about the job.
Even if it's just the paycheck.
Even if it's just the paycheck initially. Or grateful for the skills you're using. Then maybe setting healthier boundaries where possible, using those emotional cleansing techniques, like the feeling letter, to process the stress and frustration instead of letting it build up.
Okay.
This internal shift, it doesn't magically make the job wonderful overnight, but it changes how you experience it. It reduces the suffering. And often that shift in perspective leads to clarity on next steps, or maybe seeing new opportunities you just couldn't see when you were trapped in resistance and desperation.
That makes a lot more sense. It's about changing your capacity to deal with the external.
Exactly. You gain inner resources.
So who is this deep dive really for then? Who listening might pick up this book or even just take these ideas and find that reset button you mentioned?
Well, I think if you feel like you're stuck chasing goals but never really feeling satisfied when you get there, or if maybe you're successful on the outside, you've got the career, the achievements look good, but inside you feel kind of empty or unfulfilled. Or perhaps you're working really, really hard, putting in all the effort, but you're still not getting what you truly desire. It feels like there's some invisible barrier.
If any of that sounds familiar.
Then this book, these ideas, they offer that profound reset button. It's really perfect for anyone who's ready to go deeper, Not just focusing on external achievements anymore, but diving into their own emotional and spiritual growth.
Looking within.
Yeah, it's for those willing to look within to change what they see around them. It's a powerful shortcut, in a way, to understanding how Gray's work can apply directly to your life, especially if you felt that gap between putting the effort and getting true fulfillment.
In a world that is constantly pushing us, do more, be more, achieve more, this book, How to Get What You Want and Want What You Have, it feels like a gentle but firm reminder.
Mm-hmm.
First, be whole.
Yeah.
Get right within yourself. Then, yeah, go for your dreams, but do it from a place of peace, not from desperation or lack.
That's it, exactly.
It's really not about lowering your standards or settling for less than you want.
Not at all.
It's more about raising your internal state, your vibration, perhaps, so you naturally attract the life you deserve instead of just chasing it endlessly.
Mhm.
It's a really powerful message.
It really is. And it leaves us with an important question, doesn't it? In this world pushing us to do more, be more, achieve more, what might actually shift in your life if you paused? If you truly tried to want what you already have,
Mm.
realizing that maybe where you are right now, it's already enough to begin building the life you truly desire, starting from that place of acceptance.
That's a beautiful thought to end on. That ultimate message from Gray seems to be that true fulfillment, it isn't really about the endless chase for external things.
Oh.
It's about cultivating that deep sense of peace and contentment with where you are right now, and then allowing your desires to unfold naturally from that place of inner strength. It really does offer this beautiful blend of healing and hope and real empowerment.